This is 17 to 1. I'm Chris, and I've seen every episode of Star Trek the original series 17 times. That silence is the sound of Derek not being here, because our original recording of the Menagerie was conducted in one fell swoop. That was entirely too large to be uploaded to my tiny, tiny website in one piece. So this introduction will count you down to the Menagerie. Part 2. 3, 2, 1, engage.
Hey, listen, Shatner, can you walk around and be emotional for about, 15 to 20 seconds? Can I?
It's hard to believe the events of the past 24 hours. This is aggressively parodied in Futurama.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah. There's an entire episode where it starts out with a trial. And William Shatner goes, I can't believe the events that we've just witnessed. And then it does a flashback, because they all have to testify before Zap Brannigan in Captain Pike's chair.
Oh, what?
they relay their little story in Morse code with a little foot pedal.
I'm going to have to watch this again.
That was great. It was obviously the one where they got the Star Trek cast to do their voices.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of tropes. And as you watch the episode more, as you watch more TOS, you're going to note more tropes in every scene.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the things that I'm excited about this project is that it's a lot of pop culture. Star Trek has a lot of pop culture in it, and I would definitely like to catch up with at least some of that pop culture that someone of my age would be familiar with.
I don't know if it's possible to catch up with all of it, though.
Yeah, it generates itself way too fast.
Yeah. I mean, even Star Trek had 2 series going on at the same time for 7 years straight. So it's drinking out of a fire hydrant. It's a lot.
Indeed.
The death penalty.
I love how he's just staring. Do you know what you're doing? Have you lost your mind? It's like, okay, so last episode we established that Vulcans cannot tell lies, but they can go insane. It kind of seems like both of those situations should be equally improbable. Like if you want to go to the mat saying, no, there's no way this guy can lie, but he could be crazy.
Well, it's an interesting question, right? If are criminals by their nature insane because they perform criminal acts?
Yeah, and I mean when you get right down to that, you wonder about the rules of society and how arbitrary they are. Like if you only have to look to another society in another country to realize that different rules can be applied and have different consequences.
That's one of the core tenets of psychology, is that if you do something in one society and it's perfectly normal, but it's strange in another society, then for a person from each of those societies respectively, one of those things is a mental illness and the other one is not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it just has to do with whether or not crazy is just in I guess late 60s terms, crazy is just have you gone not normal, sir? You've gone not normal.
And playing with what you said earlier, where you said, hey, look, Spock, this is nothing for Spock, but it benefits Captain Pike.
Yep.
Then what does it say about a society who considers such self-destructive action for the good of others to be insanity? How could you not keep your own best interests at heart? What kind of crazy person are you?
Yeah. And there's even, getting a little philosophical, there are even, when we look at other societies, or when other societies look at us and they see some actions that we do, or there is that feeling of, why are you doing that? Isn't it crazy? But when you get down to it, we're all structured. We're all kind of grown up in an environment that's structured in different ways.
If a society says, hey, look, your own safety, your own security, and your own well-being are paramount, and if you put anything ahead of that, you're insane.
I just noticed they look like they have butt heads.
I do.
I thought it was a good contrast from this philosophical talk.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of the backs of people's heads in these episodes.
Isn't that like a cinematography no-no?
Putting butts on the screen or showing the backs of people's heads so much? Yes?
Yes.
But I can only assume it is. So.
I mean, I know that in stage acting, you're always kind of supposed to stand kind of cat-a-corner. You're never supposed to stand directly facing the audience or have your back facing the audience.
Yeah. I think it's more acceptable in film because obviously in theater you have a single audience perspective.
Right.
Film, you can actually do a round thing. You can move the perspective a little bit, and it can make a shot more natural to have the back of someone's head in the shot, like this.
Yeah.
I mean, they could also shoot this from an angle where you can see Pike and them, and they're more facing each other. But they went with that shot, and that's what they pay directors for.
He's like, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care. You can tell what to do. I'm going to break out of here, damn it.
I don't even think they have a braid system of rank set up yet, so there's no way to tell that Pike is the captain.
So that one braid doesn't mean anything?
I don't know. I'm just now learning about the whole Star Trek braid system. So I knew it existed, I just didn't care. Now we're in the pilot where none of the rules apply. That bling might also help the audience differentiate between Teleusians.
Yeah. So here we have, like, I think this is a more believable war room instead of, like, the stark meeting room they normally have.
Yeah.
Just because there is, I don't know, there's more, I guess, ornamentation. But yeah, this is where we get the whole, like, well, we should just blow through it. The Enterprise is capable of destroying a continent. I'm like, really? You're going to open the door with a nuclear bomb? Good job, guy.
Yeah. Well, they have little globes with lines in it. That's what they have. Sorry, on their insignia.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at this guy's insignia, but apparently his uniform doesn't fit very well.
Yeah.
It's got all these wrinkles. Sweet velour.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look, he's got a swirly. Looks like Spock's got like some sort of like circle and a circle thing.
Yeah. It's just like a globe with the dimensions outlined, but yeah.
Yeah, and then also the Doctor has a globe with dimensions outlined as well.
And they all have a single braid.
She's got a starburst, looks like.
Yeah, because she is command. Yeah, okay. I think the squiggly is engineering, and the little circle is sciences. Which means no.
Ooh, that was a bad pan. That was a really bad pan.
A little bit.
Not even a little bit. That was a lot of it. Yeah, so I don't know. This is just weird, you know. And you're like, oh wow. Like if you've seen the pilot and you're looking at this again, you're like, oh okay. So yeah, I get they reshot a whole bunch of stuff in the first episode, but now we're gonna get some new footage in the part 2, right? Nope. You're watching this episode all over again.
Yep.
Although it's very meta because you're showing that the beings were monitoring the dreams they were implanting in Spock enough to be able to broadcast it to other people's minds. Which is just kind of wacky.
Yeah.
This is Rigel 7. I just got out of here and had moral quandaries about things that I did.
Yeah. They, Sorry. No, this is probably just what the Teleusians think people seeing. Who knows what they're actually seeing?
Yeah, that's true.
It could be a part of Southern California.
It's sunny. It's very sunny.
Location shoot jokes. Yeah.
See, look at that. What was that lighting from? You saw that lighting change? Like, oh, okay,
wow.
Because... Okay, interesting. A brilliant deduction, because I love him so. I think, is there like a Vulcan fetish for, like, command or authority? Like, you kind of imagine that, you know, he just had a thing for Pike, and then 13 years ago, and then he got shifted to Captain Kirk, and he'll always be number 2 because He loves being dominated.
I've never heard anyone theorize about Spock and Pike.
Oh, I mean, he's definitely smitten for sure. I wonder if they played chess, which is probably the Vulcan equivalent to mentally masturbating.
Yeah, Kirk can beat him. I'm sure Pike couldn't.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Pike could beat him with his... I don't know. Does Pike have any kind of... In the canon, does Pike have any sort of... I don't know... noteworthy attributes?
He was in the Star Trek 2009 movie. Like, as far as canon goes, it's only the TV shows and movies. But, like, even outside of that, I couldn't possibly care, to be honest.
Oh, I thought there were books. There were a whole bunch of books, though, right? But that's not canon?
Correct. The books are non-canon. They're sort of canon until contradicted.
Okay.
But...
And then the movies take precedence? Movies and TV shows?
Yeah.
I just noticed that this actor who's pretending to be the giant, this is it's like a mouthpiece. Like he can't separate his teeth. He just kind of moves the mouthpiece in his mouth.
Yeah. He's a monster.
Which is kind of interesting. I love the choreography on this. It's really just whack each other, but don't hurt each other.
Yeah.
Look, I could have stabbed you right there, but I didn't. Stab him more. Oh, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that before. When we first watched this, like, he had the blade of his spear on the dude's chest, and he kept going up the stairs.
Yeah.
And he did nothing. I'm like, I mean, it's obvious he's trying to kill you, dude. Take your shot.
Yeah. It's obvious that you guys are both just awful at fighting. He's supposed to be intimidating, though, because he doesn't care, you know? It's like, you'll stab me a little bit. I don't care. I'm a monster.
I love how she's
with it obviously styrofoam weapon.
Yeah. I love how, he threw a long sword like it was a dagger.
Yeah. That I would attribute to skill.
I don't know. I don't know if anyone has that skill.
Christopher Pike does. Fine.
Okay, so we found that Pike has this unnatural throwing ability.
He's a gnome. Or is that halflings?
Well, I mean, throwing is dex, so it would be anything that's... halflings are really good at throwing, and elves are too.
Well, I know back in the day... Oh, he's taking a nap from his own past.
No, it's strength. Throwing is strength. My bad.
Okay, no, just... There was a race in one of the older editions of D&D who specifically got a racial bonus for thrown objects. Probably based on Bilbo throwing stones back in The Hobbit.
Oh yeah. Yes, probably. Yes, probably happens.
This is losing, taking commercial breaks.
Balls. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely getting... we're getting to the point where you've already kind of done... the reconvening of the court martial. It's just... It's wearing thin, this premise of, hey, we need to watch more footage. Really? Do we? Yes.
This footage hasn't explained anything yet. Can't we just skip to the end, Mr. Spock? Context is everything, Captain.
Yeah. It's and I like how every now and again we get a little exposition from Spock. Oh yes, Captain Pike was brilliant here, or he couldn't possibly have known, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So this is where we get in this. This is where the pilot gets interesting. Is when we're kind of talking about perception, like ideals and perception, and if you have everything you've ever wanted and you don't know any functional difference, isn't it the same thing as striving to get what you've always wanted and achieving that? He's like, look, you can do anything you want here. They'll make it happen. What's so wrong with that? And he's like, well, no, but I'll still be a slave, and slavery is not allowed.
No. There's also the question of if if a world can produce enough to make everyone happy, so that happiness doesn't require competition for scarce resources, then there's no longer the competition to improve people.
Well, I think that there have been some studies in my mind that prove to me that isn't true. That there's always a collaborative effort to engage in our curiosity and find things that aren't necessarily competing with one another, but that are just more discovery. Which I always thought was the purpose of Star Trek. Was this is a show about human curiosity. But it seems like it has a lot different ideals. Well, so with all the remastering, you think they could have gotten rid of this completely irrelevant, I don't know what you would call that, command center for this gun?
The thing
like that they don't so use because they're afraid to stand behind the thing. Like, it's obviously designed for you to.
It's just to sight it in. You just have an irrational hate for this piece of equipment, Derek.
It doesn't make any sense.
The only hatred I have for it is based on the fact they don't use it again for anything.
I love how they just basically hooked up a hose from this machine to like the whatever reactors on Enterprise, and just like you can imagine like some instant on the command chair turning the key. All right, give it more gas. But like I said before, I do like how they've, in a sense, destroyed this door, and they're shooting into space, but they can't perceive that.
Yeah.
I like these goggles, though. These goggles are sufficiently futuristic.
Yeah, especially considering that they wear goggles in later episodes, which are awful.
Oh, really?
These are, like, top-notch goggles. What happened to the goggles?
Yeah, I think maybe someone who no longer works for Star Trek worked on the pilot and knew a guy who knew a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they kept it. I mean, if they're willing to reuse all of this footage, I can't imagine they'd be unwilling to reuse props.
Right, and they have reused props. These old phasers get used in a lot of other episodes. But
the communicators are the same, right?
I know the communicator that Pike used initially was a little different, but obviously some parts of them got reused.
Yeah. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe all of the goggles got cannibalized to make some other prop.
Could not imagine what. Yeah.
So we're about to get to a scene that really bothers me. I don't know if when we watched this originally I mentioned this, but it still bothers me that 3 more women get teleported up, and her immediate concern is, no, I'm the best pick. You need to love me, not them. And it's like, yes, a woman can only care about, giving off progeny, even though there is kind of this meta story about, well, no, we're coercing her to care, and I don't know, it's still, I just don't like it. It bothers me.
Well, she's grown up, isolated from humans for almost her entire life. Well, alright, actually she was probably in her 20s, but for a very long time she's been isolated from other people. And Captain Pike is the only guy she's met. And he seems like a pretty cool guy, actually.
Yeah.
So, suddenly the Telosians who are like, yeah, we're going to use you to make a whole race of humans. Are like, yeah, maybe you're not okay for that. Maybe you're just useless like you've been for the past 20 years.
Right.
Past 12 years.
That was 18. They say like 18 years out? Or?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Anyway,
she's desperate to be useful. She's desperate to be wanted. And
yeah,
she's been alone and tortured by aliens.
That is a good point, because humanity, loneliness is still a very real and devastating punishment to level at anyone. And it does make you wonder if you are in the company of such ethereal beings that you have nothing in common with whatsoever. Is it the same as being lonely? Because if it is, then yes, you could see the desperation. The desperation isn't, hey, I need to have a baby with you. It's, please stay here. You're the only human I know.
Yeah.
You see these humans all the time. They can go back to other humans. I can't. I gotta stay.
And they just see her as a zoo specimen.
Right.
So I really like her character. I really like how
An Earth woman?
All of her emotions seem very, very real.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is true. It is ungodly acting and talent. Much more, but I can't tell you. I'm going to show you. Damn it, Spock. Get on with your AV project. Although I'm a big fan of after that whole woman scene where he takes the phasers. He's like, I'm filling my mind with hatred for them, but he's planning this whole like rope-a-dope trap.
Yep.
It's pretty great. I still like it to this day. It's good stuff.
It would be great if you could just reshoot this so that it is nothing but Spock doing a PowerPoint program.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is, I mean, I get that they want to reuse footage. That's fine. I mean, I know that they probably have access to this set, and is Christopher Pike the guy in the chair, or is it not like the actor that plays Pike?
No.
Okay.
The money and time, that actor were not there for it.
Okay. Because I was wondering about, like, couldn't they have just interspersed a little bit of, we didn't show you this part, or just some other aspect that could have given this a lot more juice than just, hey, we're going to literally recycle this episode and make people watch it again.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I always took it at face value. I never thought, hey, let's do something else with it. Because it was always just, well, it's cost efficient. So why do anything except dig out the uniforms we have in the back closet, hire a guy to be the Commodore, and then make the chair to make this whole plot go.
For entertainment value. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to entertain.
Maybe.
No! That's what television shows do. It reminds me of like the Futurama episode where Bender joins a robo-religion and he drinks mineral oil and is like, functional.
Yeah.
Instead of drinking booze. It's like, you can meet all of your base needs, but you will still have a desire for other things, whether they be philosophical or different types of experiences.
I was just aiming to make a sell cigarettes joke about the commercials. That's all I was aiming for.
Oh, okay.
Although, again, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it before, but Star Trek didn't have cigarette commercials.
Yeah, that's something. That is something.
Cost a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a really good point. We watched a documentary about showrunners on Netflix, which is pretty good. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how they spend maybe about $1 to $2 million a week on an episode. And it's like, well, geez, like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Even $30. So I guess like he starts using his mouth just because he forgets that he can project with his mind, or to put Captain Pike in a false sense of comfort.
No, when it does things with its mind, I think that's different. When it says things with its own voice, it carries a different weight.
Yeah, I guess so. That might be akin to kind of the whole Afghani insult of like throwing a shoe, since you couldn't be bothered to find a rock in Afghan where there are lots of rocks.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why that picture of George Bush dodging from a shoe, it stems from an Afghan insult of, I'd rather throw a shoe at you than a rock, or I couldn't be bothered to look for a rock, is essentially the insult.
I thought that was an Iraqi journalist. Yeah, well.
It might have been Iraqi. I know it was Middle East, and I'm bad at geography.
Fair enough. So,
a lovely day, and we have an Earth city in the background. You're home. Can you please just forget that you're trying to escape this prison? I mean, you're home.
I think it might be New Mexico. Let me check on that. I think it's Las Vegas, because I don't think Las Vegas was important enough back then.
Oh, that's where they're shooting in Las Vegas?
No. That is the city featured in the matte painting.
No, there's like all these kind of futuristic stuff. That could be Las Vegas, huh?
Well,
there's like these little globe things.
Las Vegas isn't destroyed in the Third World War or the eugenics wars. It's still around. It just looks like it's in the future now because it's in the future now.
Okay. Oh, so you're saying that this is like the home behind him is future Las Vegas on Earth?
I think it's Las Vegas. I'm just blanking out on it right now.
Fair enough. Tricking and punishing and they won. They own me. Yep, that sucks. And, so it kind of makes me wonder, and this is the one thing they edited. The one thing they edited out of all this footage is at the very end when they're like, all right, Pike can come with us. We're like, okay, we'll let Pike go with you. And then Kirk's looking at Pike walking down with this girl when it's like, no, actually what happened was Pike left and Pike walking down with this girl is a complete fictitious illusion that they've created for this girl.
Correct.
And so it makes you wonder if there ever comes to a point where it's okay, here's what's going to happen, Pike. We're going to put you here, we're going to take care of all your needs, and one day we're going to switch you out with her illusion, and she won't know the difference. But because he's the actual Pike and not a facsimile, if she'll ever figure that out and then have like some sort of mental break.
It was a good way to edit it up and chop it up so it fits better with the story they're telling here. Because the original pilot wasn't actually shown on television, I think, until 87 or something.
So this episode?
Yeah, it was all... this episode, but it wasn't shown as its own standalone episode until much, much later.
Wow,
they're just bootleg copies.
But at the very least, it's portrayed as a creepy scene as well.
Yeah.
Nice place you have here, Mr. Pike.
Fascinating that...
I love all the vices around here.
Yeah. This place is also vaguely Middle Eastern.
Yeah. Vina. Oh, is she actually the command, the black-haired command lady?
No, that's Vina that they've been talking about for a while. They just painted her green.
Oh yeah.
Now, I believe they did do a test on Majel Barrett, on who plays number 1. That was just a test.
Okay.
Yes, these are the most important reaction shots of the episode.
Yeah. Now we're back. We're back to watching this other...
Some good back of the head acting Hernandez. I'm sorry, Commodore Menendez. My bad.
I think his first name is Jose. I think his name is Jose Menendez.
It is.
And so apparently, we have Pike, who's just in this weird garb. We have his, I guess the merchant that sells him things on this planet. And then we have some guy from the Federation. Some weird, because he's wearing a uniform, right?
Yeah, that is like a Starfleet Regulations smoking jacket. I have no idea what the hell he's wearing. I never even thought about that.
Yeah. So you have some really shady things happening and some guy from Starfleet.
Yeah.
How'd you get rich, Mr. Pike? I want to do the thing you did.
Yeah. We can't tell what his rank is. That's a very interesting jacket.
Yeah. Does that ever show up, or?
No. I have no idea what that jacket is.
This has always been a weird scene for me, just because I think it goes too far in him trying to puzzle things out. I think when he's looking down the corridor and he has that kind of notion that something's off, they should have just transitioned to kind of this part where she shows up and says, "Hey." I don't know, not minute, but 45 seconds or so of just weird looking around seems like a stretch to me. At first, I thought they kind of took the green out of his face, but no, I see it here.
Probably wasn't as pronounced.
Yeah, with whatever kind of... Because they obviously did something to... When we're watching the actual episode, and when the actual episode is being displayed on, like, the way back machine, the court-martial.
Yeah.
We'll only take your women. You can keep everyone else.
Their name was a good actor, but...
I forgot.
Not always.
I forgot this dog said that. The women! Like, A, you're emotional, so that's interesting. B, you just say, the women!
I know you have to do what the director says, and the director's like, we just need you to be really surprised and say the women. And he was like, really? The
Right,
women.
The women. I love this. I'm adjusting you now, Ensign. Just deal with it.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. The phasers.
Yep.
I like this. It's just so good because you don't get this level of trap setting. Like what I like is that this is trap setting and they don't explain it. It only comes later, and I think that is good. And I think the only reason why I find it good is that the many years I've watched TV, that happens rarely.
Yeah, they give you the credit for puzzling it out instead of just saying, "Oh, it's just a thing that happens." Because heaven knows, more than half the times that I've seen this episode, I thought to myself, "Oh, this just happens now," and there's only whenever I look at it a little more closely that I was like, "Oh, Pike is weaving a web of primitive human brain and emotions."
Now the predator has become the prey.
Yeah.
The jailer is the jailee.
You didn't get there. And there isn't much done for these characters, but they're still strong characters. You still get where they're coming from. And the thing is...
I love the... sorry, good.
No, I was going to ramble for a bit.
Oh. I was just say I love the black-haired lady. I forgot her name already. Chambers?
I don't know if she has a name. I think she's just called Number One.
Oh. Well, I love Number One. Number One just seems like I would have loved to see that character get more characterization.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that if you put one token character in your movie or video game or whatever, then a lot of her characterization is about being a female. If you put 2 or 3 of them in there, suddenly they have to be distinct from one another. So they begin having different character traits, and they begin to distinguish themselves from one another. And that's something that shit these days barely even does. But the fucking original pilot for Star Trek the original Star Trek pilot, that's something they did right off the bat. They're like, look, here's a woman who's old and cool. Here's a woman who is young and more passionate.
Yep.
And that's that, and they feel like very different people.
Yeah, and then you have this kind of otherworldly woman, this woman that has been around American society, and I keep wondering how much thought they put into her character, because I feel like we're giving the writers a lot of credit that they maybe don't deserve.
Well, the writer for this is Gene Roddenberry.
Well, then I feel like we're giving Gene Roddenberry we may be giving him more credit than he deserves for this episode, but I'm not certain of that.
Well, that's fair. I don't think we're. I think we're giving him. I think I'm giving him credit where it's due. I think Gene Roddenberry is a smart guy who puts things together really well. He has flaws as a writer, certainly. The dude likes sex. He writes a pretty cold story in general. The 2 stories that are most his are this one and Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Both of which are relatively cool, relatively cerebral affairs that don't really have the emotional hooks that Star Trek has. That Star Trek can support.
I love how he holds on. I love how he holds on to the neck because he's not trusting his mind at this point.
Yeah.
So good. Damn my feeble body. You try one more illusion. How you asked me to try more illusion is an illusion. Damn you! Destroy it. Any button it takes. And he got the leader, the one with the medallion, some bling on it.
Well, everybody pulls a chore out of the chore jar.
Yeah.
Also, most of the chores are siphon dreams, but
yeah. You have two people right now, just whacked out of their mind on human dreams, and the one guy's like, "All right, I guess I gotta go tend to the animals."
It would be hilarious if the ensign from the Commodore's office is also doing security for these guys. She looks away for 5 minutes. She comes back, they've broken out with the brain guy. I'm so bad at this. I'm going to join Starfleet.
This is really just shouldn't have joined security.
She's just not great at it, Good at admin, though.
Yeah. There, do you see? I can just see Spock getting up. Do you see? Do you see?
Okay, look, Spock, we all agree that the plot is thickened, but that has never gotten anyone off the charge of traveling to a forbidden planet or stealing a starship.
Zimmerman, a moment. Do you see? Do you see?
Another reason this should have been a slideshow.
I would have loved that. I would have loved it so much. If we ever do any kind of, Star Trek parodying things, we need to do this episode as a slideshow. Just about straight up, not even any talking, just an audio commented PowerPoint slide.
You would, whenever they cut to the view screen to show the episode, you just have slides, probably of this, but probably also of Spock's vacation somewhere. Appropriately mundane, right?
Him in some weird Vulcan bathing suit that is both functional but attractive.
Right, and then occasionally we'll just cut back to these guys and get their reaction shots.
I must vote guilty.
And then whenever we reach maximum boredom, you cut to the reaction shot of Pike with his head down. It's like, oh, he's asleep now.
We could definitely cut. I feel like there's enough. The background is bland enough in all the episodes I've seen so far that we could probably take any reaction shot with them wearing their Class A's. And it'll work.
Yeah. So, we have a few more to pull from there.
Okay, let's go.
Now we've arrived at Talos 4, earning Spock the death sentence.
Spock's like, yep, well, it's been a good run. Peace out, guys.
Oh, it was 13 years ago. Oh, right, because... No? All right, never mind.
He's like, you will watch the end of my audiovisual presentation.
There's only 5 more minutes. We've already begun, Commodore. You can't thank out now.
He's like, I don't want to. I already rendered a verdict.
I know.
Verdict's in. I don't want to watch the end. Ugh.
Pike survived. Spoilers. Hernandez out. I'm sorry, Mendez out.
Yes. We just railroads him. Shut this off, Spike. Spike. Shut this off, Spike. We obviously know that he survives.
Yeah.
Carefully guided lives. We're burgeoning on eugenics. Well, actually, we're circling the concept of eugenics without explicitly stating eugenics.
Don't worry, they'll get there. Star Trek Let's talk about eugenics.
Which, I guess, so what? When does World War II end? Is it the 40s?
45.
45. So, this is roughly about 20 years later.
Yeah.
So, it is somewhat... I guess it could be considered controversial if you talk about eugenics, because eugenics were supposed to be a big Nazi thing.
Yeah, they were a big Nazi thing.
We do have a Nazi episode that we've done already.
So, we might even be doing Nazi episodes.
So yeah, I imagine talking about eugenics without actually saying eugenics is kind of like, ooh, look how clever we're being.
I don't know. I really couldn't say, because they do specifically talk about eugenics directly in later episodes. They actually have... Yeah, I mentioned that they use, after a certain point, whatever sets and costumes are around that week. So, obviously in the 60s there were still a lot of Nazi costumes in Hollywood and sets.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Well, it's not. Like they're flattering towards Nazis. Nazis are jerks and stupid.
Well, I was telling someone the other day, like we need another catastrophic global event so that we can have a new level of bad. So the Nazis just... I'm not a Nazi apologist. Like, fuck those guys. I'm just saying that I'm tired of hearing about, well, Hitler did it, well, the Nazis did it, well, blah, blah, blah. They're like, yes, we get it. They're the bad guys. They're always the bad guys.
I don't think we need anybody to eclipse the Nazis in awfulness. I think it's great if in 400 years past, people go, yeah, the Nazis were the worst. Like, I think we're good.
But, like, they still know, like, it's almost kind of like the birth of Jesus. Like, yes, we've restructured the calendar to before the World War and after the World War.
Yeah, I thought America already did that, but it feels like it.
Yeah, sure.
I would not be unhappy if Hitler went down in history as the anti-Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are certain circles that view him as the Antichrist, for sure. So, I mean, that tracks in those circles, I'm sure.
Well, I don't need to add any religious significance to it. I would just be happy if he is a mythological figure figure of evil who is as persistent as the good figure of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and that being said, I think I'm just tired of hearing it because people with lazy arguments use it a lot. But I should be grateful that people with lazy arguments use it a lot because it easily allows me to identify people who are willing to make lazy arguments.
Yeah, and at least most of those idiots are still condemning Nazis. You can't say that for all idiots.
Yeah, at least they've gotten around something.
So I don't think it's necessarily an issue of let's get rid of the Nazis. I think it's an issue of let's teach people how to argue and debate and form arguments.
Point and match. I rescind my earlier statement.
Yeah. Which is basically, hey, look, let's...
It was a weird kind of, like, lighting thing. Like, when she came up right out of the teleporter, like, her whole face was dark.
Yeah. I think they're still working on the lighting for all of this. And remember, they have to do stop camera stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I think I remember you saying something to the effect that the teleporter sequence in the pilot wasn't really kind of worked out until like the iconic teleporter experience.
Yeah. I mean, they beam a piece of those chicks one by one, and then, I mean, you have to do, especially if someone else is in the frame, you do one shot without the person, then you end that on a freeze frame, and you lock your camera, and you add the other person.
Yeah. Good.
And then you pick up the shot where they come off, and then you still have to put in the transporter version of them, like in the special effects shot, with a filter over it to make it look like they're gluey.
I love how her skin is just, like, mangled and scar-ridden, but her hair, immaculate.
I've said it before, and I'm really going to say it again. The Telosians have no concept of bilateral symmetry. That was just too much. Like, maybe she should be mostly the same on one side? Then what about the heart, Bob?
You can't explain the heart.
Who is to say she shouldn't have a shoulder that's 5 feet wide and one that's 6 inches wide?
Oh, so like the idea is that this is what she really looks like, but they actually don't know what she really looks like, so they're like only taking away some stuff.
Well, no, the deal is they found her wrecked and they saved her life with surgery.
They grew up around them.
Yeah, but apparently just realizing that she's supposed to be bilaterally symmetrical was too much for them to figure out. They couldn't make one side look like the other. There's like a huge scar across her face. That's normal for humans, probably.
Oh, I see. So like while they were healing her, I was like, oh yeah, her having this big hump on her left side, that's probably normal. We don't have to fix that.
Yeah, no big deal. I read The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I scanned it from her mind.
So I should have just said I read Victor Hugo. That would have been a way classier reference. But
Victor Hugo?
I think you wrote The Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Oh. Yeah, that would have been kind of good. Come on, tier! I didn't know if he got a tier or not. No, he doesn't get a tier. Oh, man. I was hoping he'd just have that one, like that Indian, Indian looking at garbage Mother Earth tier. Where it's like, oh, a saddened part of my past. Or the iconic tier, right?
No, it's not so great. Completely physically scarred man acting.
Yeah. He's got the whole keeping his mouth open down pat though.
Yeah. I'm just saying, Hawking was in an episode of TNG, and he had way better acting than that.
Oh, that is pleasant to hear, and also doesn't surprise me. So that's another thing that's kind of cool, is that when you have a race of people who do not use their mouths to talk, you can make them say whatever you want.
Yeah, you can.
It's
a great ploy, though, right? That Kirk would be completely consumed with...
finding the justice, like the pursuit of justice.
Yeah, and that would keep him from trying to override Spock's command of the ship.
Yeah.
Like the entire court-martial is deployed to keep Kirk occupied. Which is so sweet.
We got you. I really do love you, Captain.
It also means Spock respects Kirk's ability to undermine everything he put together.
Well, I mean, they play chess consistently. And it's like, I should win, and this dude beats me, so I can't take him for granted.
That is an interesting point. If Spock learns Kirk's style of beating him in chess and uses that to tie him up in this episode.
Yeah, man. Totally. I think that's exactly what happened. I mean, I still say, and I will probably continue to say it, that Spock is just running a lone con. He's studying humans. Like, that's his actual internal goal for being on the Enterprise.
Yeah, you can't study without a little bit of experimentation.
Right. And I think, it began as an assignment, but it turned out to be a mission of love.
Convenient for Spock. Poke and prod the humans. And test his theories.
We'll see. We'll see who comes out on top, logic or emotions. I already did, Captain. What?
Somehow this still ran short. And,
How? How in the world did this run short?
Well, like he's saying, like they're wrapping up a lot of stuff that's going to happen here in this bit here.
Yeah.
So instead of going down there and showing things and...
I love this. So this is where he's like, hey, I'm gonna poke and prod at you because you got me. I'm gonna mess with you again about being emotional. Which, I mean, I'm gonna agree with Kirk. Like, Spock did a whole bunch of not Vulcan things, and his stubbornness to say, no, still Vulcan.
Yeah. Seeing they just, now he's being down to the planet, and this is already happening. Good job, everyone. End of episode.
But there's no way he had enough time to get to the teleporter. I don't know. In my mind, I'm guessing that this is supposed to say, yes, his mind is already here, even though his body is still being wheeled to the transporter room.
Nice music. But, yeah, I mean, the episode ran short, so they couldn't throw any more scenes in there.
Oh.
It's all that. So it's like...
Right, I thought, running short means you want more footage, not less, right?
Well, I mean, they're running short on time. So the episode was running long, you're correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that's, that's the Menagerie. Not an awful episode.
It's a very tedious episode.
Hey, we had fun. We, saw a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I guess.
If you didn't have fun, then you're just insulting my company. And that is a court-martialable offense, sir. We can go right back to next week if you don't like it. Right
We're
back.
gonna watch Menagerie again and again until we have fun.
All right. But that is it for the Menagerie. So yeah, next time is going to be Shore Leave. It's an episode. And until then, remember Rand.